What's going on, guys? It's Dubs Yu-Gi-Oh here, and today I want to talk about some of the more powerful cards that could be thrown into any deck, or the staple cards that I think have been running the format. There's a bunch I want to talk about, so let's get started. The first one I want to talk about is probably the most expensive of the staple cards. It is the Mulch Armies. The Mulch Armies have been owning, I've seen players running at least one Mulch Army in their main deck. I have not seen a single Mulch Army in a side deck other than Meows. But just getting it out of the way, yes, the Mulch Armies are expensive. Yes, they were reprinted in the tins, and yes, I know they were short printed, so it's very hard to find. But the Mulch Armies have been really, really powerful, seeing as how we're getting into more one-card combos and how they're kind of defining the game on whether you want to risk giving your opponent more cards in their hand to have more starters and more follow-up, or do you want to just sit on what you have and hope that your opponent doesn't have anything to start. So I think with that being said, Mulch Armies are still one of the more powerful staples in the game and one of the best hand traps, and I definitely recommend running as many as you can. That's not out of the Perulia and Fualos. I would not recommend running Meows. The second staple I want to talk about is probably one of the most well-known, Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I always run 3 of because Mulch Armies exist and the starters exist as well. But I think Ash is definitely a more powerful card now than it was before. And what makes Ash so powerful is as long as you don't shotgun it and you plan and think about when you should Ash. When the Yummy Snatch is summoned, I would probably Ash there, because if they summon the Cupsy and then use Cupsy effect, that's fine, but you don't want them to have access to that minion veiled spell. So I feel like ashing the Snatchy would be powerful. And that's just one reason for timing. If you're playing Ryzeal, ash the Duo Drive. But this has been a lot more of, we need to be careful on what we're doing. We need to be more careful about what we're doing and when we're playing our cards. And I just feel like depending on how you use Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring could determine how useful it really is. All right, the next card I want to talk to you guys about is Nibiru. Now, some people say Nibiru is in a tough spot because everyone's planning for it. Some people say it's in a good spot because no one's planning for it. I personally am one of those people that think it's in a good spot. Now I think I've mentioned that I'm running Yummy now. So I think that running Nibiru, whether it's just to fill up some cards in the deck or something else, I think Nibiru is just a good card. Because not all decks are ready for Nibiru now that Justice Hunters is out. Obviously you still got the K9s, but I've not seen how many of the other decks interact with Nibiru. I do believe that Yummy doesn't have an out other than Herald of Arclight, but that's after 5 summons. So I think Nibiru is very powerful. Okay, so moving on, the next one I want to talk about is... the next one I want to talk about is Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion. Ghost Belle is probably one of the better hand traps, especially because a lot more decks are graveyard reliant. I've not seen a single deck not send cards back to the hand, so there's always opportunities to use Ghost Belle. And I've even, similar to Ghost Belle, I've seen people using Skullmeister against Dracotail, which is awesome. It's very impressive, especially because Dracotail, whenever you have cards that are sent to the graveyard as fusion material, you can negate those said card effects with Skullmeister. So it's just a very good spot to be in. Now that I've gotten those two out of the way, I think the next card I want to talk to you guys about is probably Droll and Lockbird. Droll has been a pain in the butt for a lot of decks to deal with when they get Droll, because it kind of kills them. But now some decks are finding their ways around, or just can play through Droll. Like, I've seen Yubel play through Droll as long as I don't open Nightmare Throne. Like Samsara specials from the deck, Yubel Spirit will just set the card to avoid Droll, and then after you add off Nightmare Pain, you can still go full combo under Droll. It's insane. The thing is, a lot less people are main decking Droll because there's like a few decks that Droll can kill, which is Mitsurugi and White Forest, and on some occasions Lunalight, depending on the opening hand. It's also I main deck one mainly for the crossout target and also to stop the Charmies, but this is just my personal opinion and what I recommend, but this is not my deck. I'm not in charge of what you guys run or what you guys play. This is just my personal experience and my personal opinion. Right. So moving on to the next card, which I think is Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is probably a good card for the side deck. I don't run it, period, simply because I think Infinite Impermanence is just a better card. There are some instances where I would run Effect Veiler, and that would be in Blue Eyes. Now, we all know Blue Eyes has a conundrum of white light spellcaster tuners, and Effect Veiler happens to be a level 1 spellcaster tuner that's a light monster, so it fits the entirety criteria of basically the Blue Eyes cards. So I feel like a lot of people are taking advantage of that and getting their access to Effect Veiler. And I think that's healthy for Blue Eyes, but maybe not for the rest of the decks. And I think it's just not worth main decking under like the one instance that it's like searchable or it's like actually useful. And the final card I want to talk to you guys about is Infinite Impermanence. Actually, that's not the last card I want to talk to you guys about, but Imperm is still one of the better hand traps around. I know I don't run it in the main deck, I run it in side deck, but that's just my opinion. But Imperm, in my opinion, is just Veiler but better. It can't get hit by Called By, so you can't negate it. And I do not believe that I don't think people will be able to cross out it either. I'll have to double check, but there's a lot of different ways that you can get around. And then I have, I think, 2-3 more cards that I want to talk to you guys about, and then I'll end the video. But the next card I want to talk to you guys about is Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Ogre is definitely a better board breaking hand trap. I wouldn't say like board breaker as in like the Raigeki kind of board breaker, but it still whittles down your opponent's board, and in the sense that you need stuff on the field to resolve, Ogre is very powerful. And I think it's just a lot better. Now, I do know that from my experience from the last format, from when I played Yubel, people would Ogre the Nightmare Throne unless you had Spirit to resolve. So you really had to focus on order just to avoid the Ghost Ogre. Now, Ghost Ogre is not one of the better hand traps around. That's not the case. I'd recommend running it in side deck if you want to. And then if you look at, I lied about the 3 cards left. There's a couple more I want to talk to you guys about. After talking about Ogre, I want to talk to you guys about the Kaijus. Kaijus are very powerful, good way of removal for monsters that you don't know how to get rid of. They're good for going second, but when it comes to going first, having them in the main deck is just not fun. So, my thing about the Kaijus is that if you don't have a way to get around them, they could be a real pain. Or you need to find a way to make use of what they do. Another instance of Kaijus is Lava Golem. A good way to inflict burn damage to your opponent, but in the general sense, I do not believe that it has, because it could definitely do a lot more, but in some instances where you need cards on your opponent's side of the field that meet criteria, or if you want to like super poly something, you gotta risk Lava Golem, so I feel like just the 1 card removal is better, so I run Kaijus. But that's just my personal opinion. Alright, the next card I want to talk to you guys about is the Triple Tactics cards. Thrust and Talent are broken to the point where even Talent got hit to 1. Now, Thrust is situational, like Valor and other cards like that, but in my experience of having Thrust, I want to say I'd run 3. Now, I'd say Thrust is a must-have for some decks like Yummy, because Obedience Schooled is at 1, and it's a normal spell. But Thrust can get you access to, especially in Game 2, Thrust can get you access to your Triple Tactics, Talent, or even Dimensional Barrier, which is a must-have in your side deck, by the way, because the best decks don't link summon, so easy to hit. There's nothing else really to say about Dimensional Barrier. There's some decks that... No, final card that I can think of is Different Dimension Grounds, or DDG, whatever you want to say. But Different Dimension Grounds is, I think, okay. There are some ways that Different Dimension Ground can be powerful because there were decks that could run Dimension Shifter. Now, Shifter is hit to 1, so no one runs it because of the inconsistency, but Shifter is still powerful. Now, a lot of people don't run Dimension Shifter because they can't play through it. And in instances such as that, I think Different Dimension Ground is very powerful. Now, there are times where I don't think Dimension Grounds is good, or it could be good because it's a thrust. It could be a thrust target, same as a dimensional barrier. But in an instance like DGG, it's just not good. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't run it. If you need the deck space, I'd run it, but in my experience, I don't think it's that good. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. I enjoy making these videos, and I'll try to do more and keep up with my daily uploads. And I will let you guys know if I can't keep up with that, and I'll let you know what's going on in my life. But with that being said, make sure you leave a comment, like the video, subscribe. Please check out my Discord. I only got 2 people in right now, but I'd love to have some more of you guys. And I can't wait to see you again. Peace.